Okay, excellent. Well, thank you very much for having me. Thank you, everybody, for dialing in. Good afternoon or good morning, wherever you are in the world. I'll give you a quick overview of Kodiak Copper, and will then be very happy to answer any questions you might have. Kodiak is a copper gold exploration company focused on North America. Our main project is a project called Mpd in southern British Columbia. We made a discovery there, which was a real game changer for the company, and have since been busy drilling, executing large drill programs, and have been very successful in building on to our discovery and making it bigger. And we are still drilling, have a big drill program underway this year, big one planned for next year, and most importantly, we're fully funded for it. Please keep in mind that during this presentation, I will be making forward-looking statements, and please consult the relevant guidance on our website before making investment decisions. First off, why are we in copper? Copper very much is about the green revolution. The long-term story for copper is about building all these electrical cars, solar vehicles, solar energy, wind energy, etc. All these technologies behind the green revolution are very copper intensive. An electrical car takes 3, 4, 5 times as much copper as a conventional car. And the story is very similar for solar, for wind energy, etc. So even if you assume quite a modest growth for all these technologies, for electric vehicles, etc., there is a big demand for copper that will be is materializing already, and going forward will materialize more. And if you look at the other side of the metal, the supply side, there's a very different picture, particularly for copper, more so than for other battery metals, because there is not very much supply in the pipeline. On this chart here, you see a forecast by Goldman Sachs, and it shows a supply-demand gap of 8 million tons in 2030. And that is simply because not many mines, not many discoveries have been made in copper over the last 10 years or so. The development pipeline of projects that are currently being developed and built into mines is at an all-time low. And since copper mines are big beasts that take many years to build, if it's not found now, it's not there, it's not going to be there in 10 years' time. So Goldman predicts an 8 million tons deficit. Many analysts have similar figures. Some have 5, some have 9. There is a big supply gap opening up. And just to put that into perspective, 8 million tons, that's literally dozens of mines. That's not a small number. So no question, to power the green revolution, more copper will be needed. And that's exactly why Kodiak is in copper. That's what our business is, the discovery of the future of a future copper mine. A couple of words about the people behind the company. The founder and chairman of Kodiak is Chris Taylor, whom many of you will know, I am sure, from our sister company, Great Bear, which was also founded by Chris, and obviously a massive discovery success. And what Chris did for Great Bear, i.e., he took a project that many other people had explored and couldn't really figure out, and he took a new approach, had a new idea, and the rest of is history. It was a big discovery. And Kodiak is very much a similar story, where really Chris, with a new approach and a new interpretation, made our project, Mpd, into a success and led to the initial discovery. So Chris, very important part of our work. Chris is a very smart geologist and leads our technical work. Myself, my background is more in the financial commercial side. I've been in resources now for over 20 years, many of those with Rio Tinto. And the types of experience I have is in the fields of business evaluation, business development, strategy, M&A. So more the financial business side, and so very complementary with Chris, who is really covering the technical side. John Robbins, at the bottom of this slide here, is also an important part of the team. Many of you, again, will know John. He's a very successful mining entrepreneur and has generated lots of value for shareholders over decades now. And John has put together the Discovery Group, which Kodiak is part of. Discovery is a loose alliance of companies. You see all the companies there. It's a great group of companies and people, and it gives Kodiak access to really good expertise, technical know-how, industry relationships, contacts, capital markets expertise. So it is a really, really, really strong support network, if you will, and I feel very fortunate to be part of a strong, incredible group, and really believe it makes Kodiak a more resilient and stronger company. So this was a little bit about the corporate background of Kodiak, and I will now talk more about our Mpd project, where we made the discovery. And to start, I have a video that gives an overview.
Kodiak Copper is located in British Columbia's prolific copper belt known as the Quesnel Trough, which runs through the south of the province. Kodiak has caught the market's attention with a new copper-gold discovery at its Mpd project.
Mpd is very accessible. It's a 3 hours drive from Vancouver, near the towns of Merritt and Princeton. Infrastructure and accessibility is obviously very important for economic potential and future development. What's great about the Mpd project is its location. We are here in southern BC, where you can work year-round, and in a very established mining area. There are a number of large mines nearby, for example, Copper Mountain, or also Highland Valley, New Afton. So it's a very established mining area, and everything you need for an exploration project is right at our fingertips, which makes our work very cost-effective.
One of the things I noticed when we were reviewing the Mpd project initially was the presence of copper oxides over many kilometers on surface. So what it indicated was that we were sitting on top of a major porphyry system, and certainly the right type of rocks that indicated that there could be a major discovery to be made. This project has the potential to host a major copper porphyry discovery. And of course, with the drilling that we've done recently, we've shown that that's the case. Now, on initial review of this project, what was really impressive is that we had over 100 drill holes over 10 kilometers, and all of these holes have copper in them. And when we're looking at the rock, we saw the right types of rocks and the right types of features that indicate we could be sitting on top of a major copper system.
The Mpd project was drilled historically since the 60s, so for over 50 years. And most of this historic drilling was very shallow, almost all only down to between 100 and 200 meters. And that is where we saw the opportunity. So we drilled deeper, we drilled down to over 800 meters, and that's where we got our first discovery hole right here at this location. It was a hole that was mineralized top to bottom and had in the middle a very nice high-grade zone. That was the first time that we saw that in this large porphyry system there are higher grade zones present.
This is some of the best looking drill core that has been drilled in this part of British Columbia. Now we're located here, we're in Merritt, and that means that in all the areas around us we have copper mines in both directions. What you typically see in this region is about 1/3 of the grade. The grade that we've drilled here on the copper and the gold side is 3 or 4 times higher than many of the mines in this area. The types of alteration that we see, the potassic feldspar alteration, the silicification, the presence of chalcopyrite, the presence of bornite, These are all indicative features of a strongly mineralized copper center.
We've made a great start and had some fantastic high-grade results early on in our drill program. We have now gained Teck Resources as a major shareholder. So now we have our work cut out. We have a large 10 square kilometer area of historic drilling and have only poked deeper holes into one small corner of it. That means lots more drilling to come and lots more potential for our shareholders to be unlocked. It'll be an exciting time for Kodiak going forward. Here is the map that shows where Mpd is located. As I said in the video, it is a fantastic location. Its location was one of the reasons why we originally got interested in the project when we acquired it, because it is in a very accessible area in a big mining district and between two large copper mines. To our south is Copper Mountain and to our north is Highland Valley, both 30, 40, 50 kilometers away, and lots of other mining and exploration ventures in the area. And the project also is in a warm area of Canada, 3 hours drive from Vancouver. So you can work year round and it's very accessible. You can literally drive with the truck on the highway and then turn off, and 5 minutes later you're on the project. So all of that together makes for very low exploration costs. So our exploration dollars go a long way. And obviously, looking into the future, this will be a big difference maker when it comes to building a mine. The hurdle that this project will have to make to become economic is a whole lot lower than a project in a more remote location. I mentioned in the video the historic drilling. It's an important aspect to highlight about the project. This is not greenfields, but there has been a lot of drilling and a lot of copper and gold already found over a large area. Now, what's important to highlight is this was not one operator, but it was literally dozens of different companies over several decades that drilled, always on smaller land packages, so real patchwork. And we were, for the first time as Kodiak, in a position to have the consolidated land package and be able to look at the bigger picture. And that really was step one to create value here. Then I'd also like to point out that the historic drilling and the copper that's proven in drilling is over a wide area, 14 square kilometers in total. And that's, again, something that really attracted us to the project. It has a big footprint and the potential to be big. And then very importantly, all of this historic drilling was shallow, most of it less than 200 meters. And that is where we took a different approach. We essentially drilled deeper. We drilled down to 700-800 meters, and we made a discovery in our maiden drill program. That was just about 2 years ago, and that was a real transformative moment for the company. Our share price rallied. There was a lot of excitement in the market when we released those drill results. And we then raised $12.7 million, and Teck, big resource major, invested $8 million, became our largest shareholder. That again led to another rally in our share price because that was obviously seen as a big vote of confidence. So what did we drill that generated all that excitement? It was this drill intercept that you see on this cross section here. 535 meters of 0.76% copper equivalent, so over half a kilometer of high-grade mineralization. And there were higher grade intercepts in the middle of that. And just to put that into perspective, that is about 3 times the grade that is mined at the mine next door, Copper Mountain. So that's why this was received very well and was a big step forward for the project. In fact, the fact that we proved that there is high-grade mineralization in the system. So with the money we raised, we have been busy drilling. We executed then in 2021, last year, a large drill program of 22,000 meters. And this year we're well into another even larger drill program of 25,000 meters. And these two maps show where we got to, show the before and the after. So this is the gate zone, our discovery. And I'd like to draw your attention to the red dotted lines that mark a corridor. And that's approximately where we have drilled high-grade mineralization. So on the left here, just after our initial discovery 2 years ago, we had about 125 meters in north-south extent. And then fast forward, that's where we are now. With all of last year's drilling and the first results from this year's drilling, we have extended the gate zone to over 1 kilometer in length. It's now about 350 meters across in width, and we have drilled down mineralization to 850 meters. So if you picture these dimensions, that's already quite sizable. We're starting to see some real nice size at gate and are obviously very encouraged with what we have found so far. Now, what's important to understand is that the gate zone is only one of multiple porphyry centers on the property. It's a very typical situation for porphyry that there are multiple high-grade porphyry centers. Our neighboring mine, Copper Mountain, for example, is exactly the same multicentric porphyry system, and many other mines in British Columbia and elsewhere are of that type. And that is clearly what we are seeing from the historic drilling and from all our data. There are other historically drilled areas, and you see those here on this plan map. Gate zone is the yellow star, and these red stars are other interpreted porphyry centers where there is shallow historic drilling, shallow copper and gold near surface, but those have never been drilled deeper. And what we are now doing is essentially take the approach that led to our discovery success at Gate and do exactly the same at Dillard. That's the target we're drilling at the moment. We have just moved the drill a couple of weeks ago, and we will then also test Man. We will test down here in the southern area, 1516 target. We have several other high priority targets which have equally as much discovery potential as the gate zone has. And it's a very exciting time for our drill program and for the project, as we are now moving on to these new targets and replicating, essentially with the aim to replicate what we did at the gate zone. So the potential for more discovery, one or several more discoveries for our shareholders, and even in a difficult equity market as we see at the moment, a discovery should still have the potential to generate excitement and be rewarded by the market. So certainly an exciting time for our company as we are continuing to drill. My last slide is our capital structure. Last but not least, very important, couple of points to highlight. We are cashed up. We have currently 10 million in the treasury, and that funds all of this year's work and well into next year. So unlike many other mining companies, we are funded, we are executing a big drill program. We don't need to worry about the next financing anytime soon. And that certainly, with the market what it is currently, is very, very valuable. Another point I'd like to highlight is we are a tightly held company. Just like our sister company, Great Bear, we have only 55 million shares outstanding and no warrants. Many of our shareholders really like that. As I mentioned, our largest shareholder is Teck Resources. Insiders and management own 9.1% of the company. If you looked at our recent insider filings, you will see that I have bought extensively over the summer, and so have other insiders, and I'm certainly planning to continue to do so. It shows you that management thinks that the current price is definitely a buying opportunity. What I should also mention, we have one bank analyst, independent analyst covering us. That's Cormac Securities, a Canadian bank, and Stefan Ioannou. The target price there is $3. That compares to our share price of, as of yesterday, 60 cents. So a whole lot higher. You see here at the bottom our share price development. On the left here, that's when we made our original discovery 2 years ago. Our share price went to over $3. And after the initial excitement, it held in pretty well, better than most, our share price. And then over this summer, with equity markets declining, with all the global uncertainty, we have certainly also been hit, and our share price now is 60 cents. That's pretty much what it was before the discovery, even though we are a whole lot further down the road and have had major drilling success. So that's why I'm saying that management is buying. We consider this a buying opportunity. And we are funded. We don't need to go back to the market. We have lots of results coming. We are working through the downturn and should be in a good place as and when the market turns, and ready with good results and the next discovery. Thank you.
All right, Claudia, thank you very much for this presentation. Now it's going to be the Q&A session. We're going to be having about 9 minutes. So we already received a few questions. I invite all attendees to ask questions. We relay almost all questions if the time allows us. So please enjoy this moment that you have to ask Claudia anything you ever wanted to know about the Kodiak project. So first of all, could you discuss why you began this drill season with the infill drilling at Gate over continued exploration at the Dillard zone? How many rigs are currently operating and where?
So that's several questions at a time. Let me take them one by one.
It's all by Serge, so it's I just read what he wrote.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
No, all good. So this year, as I said, we have 25,000 meters planned. We have about 20,000 meters already drilled, and we started with one drill rig, then we started in March, added a second one in May or June, and have drilled with 2 rigs over the summer when you have best weather and highest productivity. So made a lot of progress, and we have just taken down 1 rig and will continue to drill for the rest of the year with 1 rig. And we started the drilling at the Gate zone simply that's where we ended last year, and there were still many areas where mineralization was open, where there's more drilling to be done, more mineralization to be discovered, and that's what we did. We essentially drilled beyond last year's drilling, filled in gaps between holes that we drilled last year, and just made the Gate zone bigger. And that was the first part of this year's drill program until August time. And we have now moved the drill that's currently drilling is now drilling at Dillard. And you might ask why we didn't drill at Dillard further earlier, because we drilled there 2 holes last year. Reason for that is that we did a geophysical survey, an IP survey last year at Gate. And that survey, which we received the results of in early this year in spring, was very, very powerful and really helped with drill targeting. So we decided to do the same survey at Dillard first before we went back to drill, simply because it really increases our probability of hitting the right stuff, and it really helps our targeting. That's why we moved to Dillard now rather than earlier in the year. And yeah, as I said, going forward, we are testing Dillard this year and potentially 1 more target. And then we have Man on the list and Axe and others for next year. And we have also new targets that weren't historically drilled that came out of our own soil sampling and geophysical work. So we are not short of targets. And I'm very excited to get to all of those targets, because I really think there is the potential for one or several more discoveries. All these targets, they have we know there is shallow mineralization already, lower grade mineralization. It has to come from somewhere. So it's about finding the high grade centers and the sources of this mineralization that we have already.
Okay, great. Second question, can you discuss the environmental sensitivity in this area?
Environmental sensitivity, well, that's a very good question and very important part of our work. These days, in the olden days of mining companies got away with a lot, but these days, being responsible, doing the right thing, looking after the environment as well as you can is just paramount for an exploration company and a mining company. So before we even started with the big drill program, the first thing we did was to put a solid environmental program in place and put a solid stakeholder and indigenous consultation strategy in place. So right from the start, we did things like wildlife monitoring, water sampling, etc. And we consult with local First Nations. And before we touch any ground, before we drill or trench or do anything, we have archaeological or heritage surveys with the First Nations groups to make sure there are no sensitivities. So I think for the stage and size of program and company we have a very advanced environmental and also social and First Nations consultation program. And as I said, it's an area that's very close to my heart. I think it is very important to our shareholders. I get asked about that often. And being obviously in British Columbia is a great start, because already right from the beginning, you know that a project in British Columbia has high standards because it's simply mandated. Otherwise, you don't even get a permit if you don't adhere to the highest environmental standards. And obviously, British Columbia, with almost all hydro electricity, has a very good pedigree for low carbon footprint. So we're in a very favorable location, and we're really doing our best and have very good and advanced environmental and stakeholder consultation programs in place.
Okay, great. Another question in that same sector. Would you have to address selenium in water as in the case of tech?
We do, as I just mentioned, do water testing. And in our case, it's really to establish the baseline to make sure we know what's there. So we would be in a position to detect any impact we have. And selenium in particular hasn't been, we test for it, I know, but it hasn't been any issue or hasn't been any problems with it, but I know it is part of our water testing. Keep in mind that as an exploration project, obviously the impact on water is by orders of magnitude less than a mine eventually would have. So we are really very small in terms of impact compared to, say, a mine next door. But nevertheless, obviously, you have to start right at the beginning with all these environmental testing, etc.
Absolutely. What is your current quarterly burn rate?
Well, our burn is obviously almost all, or the vast majority of our burn is the drilling. And that our budget, if you look at our financials, for a program like we executed last year or like we execute this year, is per year between $8 and $10 million. And our overheads are relatively small. So again, if you look at our financials, we have G&A of about $500,000, and marketing last year was just under the 1 million mark. But that, of course, is also very discretionary, because if markets are poor, then we can scale right back. What's important is our runway, and with the cash we currently have on hand, we are financed for a year or so. And obviously that assumes that we are motoring ahead with this year's drill program completed and then a similar sized program next year. If the market remain poor, then we could choose to slow down our work to a more prudent pace and stretch out our cash reserves for longer.
Perfect, Claudia. Thank you very much. On that, we're exactly on time, 5:30. So I thank you for the presentation, and I wish you a great day. Thank you.
Thank you.